All right, it's 8:07. Mayor Smiley's in for Ask the Mayor. More importantly, that means he's going to take your questions at 438-9776. And the mayor takes notes, so he gets you some constituent action. We had a bunch of them last time you were in. Any follow-ups you have for us before we get into the mall and everything? And a name is surfacing on a potential buyer that you and I both know. So go ahead.
Yeah, there is some follow-up. You might recall we got a call from a constituent who had a retaining wall.
That woman called a couple of times.
That's right. So we've been in touch with her, and it is the city's retaining wall, and we are helping secure the special equipment that we need to stabilize that wall. We've been in regular touch with her, and so
what street was that on?
That was on.
Remember the street? She called twice.
She did. I have her name, but I don't want to say it
All
on
right,
the radio.
no problem.
But I know she's getting the service that she needs.
Okay.
And Turo Street. And then there was stop signs pointing the wrong direction, or street signs pointing the wrong direction at Broad, Bridgham, and Elmwood. It's sort of a three-way intersection, and apparently it was pointing left for one of the streets and right for the other, and they were swapped. That has been fixed.
Oh, that would have been a great case for Judge Caprio.
There, exactly.
That would have been a good one. Yeah,
exactly. And then there was a constituent who called in, actually from North Providence, but who had his vehicle hit by a snowplow.
Yes, I remember that one too.
So that constituent has now filed his claim to be paid, and it's working its way through the city process. And so he was pretty frustrated, but the claim has been reviewed, and it's working its way through the city claim process.
Was that the Connecticut guy? You brought in those Connecticut equipment?
Well, no, they weren't the vendor that hit his truck.
Okay, it was a regular.
But it was a third-party vendor, and he did get hit, and so we've helped him file his claim.
Okay, good. You have listen. No problem too big, no problem too small. It's constituent service. You want your garbage picked up, your pothole filled, the crack on the sidewalk. Call the mayor now at 438-9776. We'll give you some action. I don't know if you want to call it rumor, buzz, speculation that Joe Paolino may be among the bidders or the buyers for the Providence Place Mall. Now, this is news to me. Is that news to you? By the way, Joe hasn't confirmed or denied, is not saying anything about this. That's up to the judge who's going to make a decision. But Joe Paolino's name is floating around among the potential buyers. Have you heard that?
So what we know is that there were several interested parties, and today we expect so the way it's going to work is the receiver, which was appointed by the bankruptcy court, who's sort of been the CEO of the mall for the last year. He reviewed all the bids and is going to make a recommendation today to the bankruptcy judge about who he thinks is the best group in the interest of the bondholders and of the asset of the mall. And so we expect that announcement to be made today. And then it'll be the judge's decision whether or not to agree with the receiver's recommendation.
Okay. So you're aware that Joe Paolino, at least you want to call it a rumor, speculation, his name is in the ether. I'm not breaking news to you.
I'm not going to speak to any of the groups because there's a process that's going on like literally today, and the city's interest is ensuring that we have a new long-term permanent owner with experience running a mall, and we're interested in working with whoever the successful and winning bidder might be.
Well, I think if Joe Paolino is in fact emerges here, and again, there's nothing to say that this is going to happen, but when they open that envelope, if his name emerges, that is a game changer for your city. He is a local developer. He has talked to me on the air about Costco maybe moving in. Other things to go in that mall to try to save it. He has an interest in Kennedy Plaza, which abuts it, and he has other properties near it. So that is a fascinating piece of information. But again, there's nothing to say that this is fact-based other than if you were to say that Joe Paolino's name is floating around today in the ether among other buyers, that would be correct.
Well, I'm not going to confirm that one way or the other than to say that we're expecting news today when the receiver puts a recommendation forward to the bankruptcy judge. And so I think we'll know more, really some facts in the next 24 hours.
Well, this is a timely topic because we're having a very spirited discussion before you get here about perception as reality, and the state of the Providence Place Mall as it is. To use an unflattering parlance, the indictment shows that the mall is bankrupt. So there must have been a problem there. Nordstrom left us. Tiffany's just closed. And there was a lengthy article, I think, in the Boston Globe that was listing a whole host of other stores that have gone by the wayside, and including the Dunkin' Donuts, I believe. So you got a problem
where
over
will
there.
Rhode Islanders possibly get a Dunkin' Donuts now?
Well, all right. Now, listen, I always appreciate a witty retort. But hold on. If you can't sell Dunkin' Donuts, maybe you got a problem.
No.
All right. Go ahead, Mayor. Now, you're going to push back, because I can predict this. I know the Smiley's going to say people are there, foot traffic is there. There must be a little more to it.
Well, I was
Mayor.
going to make a second point that we haven't talked about, which is I think you've drawn the conclusion that because the mall is in bankruptcy proceedings, it must be failing. That's really not what happened. The previous owner, which was a major corporation, we were a line on a spreadsheet for these guys. There was no personal, intimate management or no local management of this mall. They loaded the asset up with debt. And then they decided to walk away from it. And the creditors are going to end up taking some form of a haircut. It was not a failure of the mall to return profits that caused it to go into bankruptcy. It was the previous owner's decision to load it up with debt. And that happens sometimes, and so it's not an indictment on the mall's success or failure because it's in bankruptcy court. This is the proceedings of a major corporation that's a global billion-dollar business that sometimes makes decisions on how to manage these assets.
And if I say, why did Nordstrom leave? Why did Tiffany just close? And on and on and on, you would say what?
So the mall is a different mall. That part is true, and I think you and I can agree. When it opened, it was a real high-end mall, Tiffany's, Nordstrom's, etc. That's not who it's not serving the same demographic, and it doesn't have the same type of stores there. But there's very few vacancies in the mall, so it's not like it's empty. It's not like it's the Warwick Mall with or one of these Rhode Island Mall that
Rhode
was,
Island Mall, not Warwick Mall.
The Rhode Island Mall that was largely empty. It's not like that. It's just not the same mall that it was when it opened.
Let's talk about the perception of crime. If someone in the suburbs believes it's not safe, and I believe that perception is out there, you can call it unfounded, whatever you want to call it. Perception is reality. How would you correct that?
First of all, I would ask those perpetuating that perception to please stop saying it, and which would include you. And
so you don't want me to say that we haven't had a history of problems over there? That's fair to say.
No, but every time you say there's a perception it's unsafe, you're perpetuating the perception.
Well, I'm sorry, but there is a perception among many people that it is. Now it's almost like you take that personally. Like
I do take it personally.
Why do you take it personally?
One, because I'm very proud of my city and I'm defensive of it. Because I know how hard we're working, and I know the results, which is that there are very few incidents of crime in the mall, and there's no more frequent crime in the mall than there are in other corners, and so it's not disproportionately unsafe. It's not chronically problematic. There's no violence. There's occasional issues. There's occasional issues everywhere.
Apart from blaming me, would you admit, you just said there is a perception lingering, whether it's unfounded. It's out there, so you have to correct that.
Yeah.
Okay? You also have to do something with it apart from retail. Things are changing. By the way, you see, it's not just you. It's not Providence. It's a whole host of cities, including New Haven, and go on and on and on.
Yeah, I agree.
They're putting apartments in. They're putting doctor's offices. They're putting almost like an indoor park. It is changing because Amazon changed everything. TJ Maxx, Home Goods, eating everybody's lunch. You're lucky Macy's is still there, and I don't know how long that's going to be there.
No, I totally agree that the mall needs to evolve. Malls around the country are evolving, and Providence Place needs to evolve as well. Totally agree.
So we agree on that.
On that, yes, we do.
Right. And do we agree that there's a perception problem?
We do agree.
I know you want to blame me. That's fine. I have a thick skin, unlike some politicians, but go ahead.
We do agree that there's a perception problem.
Okay.
But in order to change the perception, it involves some people who have large microphones to maybe go see for themselves. And maybe you and I should go. You want to go have lunch in the food court?
Is the Chinese place still there?
I think so.
With the egg rolls?
Yeah.
All right, maybe we'll do that.
All right.
Look at you.
Separate checks, though. Separate checks.
I like that. See, that's how you just cornered
All
you.
right, well, we'll take him.
Tommy, you going to go?
I'm always there.
Tommy, you going to go what? Like he's going to, I can't make it.
I go to H&M. My CVS is there.
You go to H&M.
I think he's got the card on the stamp that like the 10th egg roll is free. So maybe it's going to be a free egg roll.
You would have loved Chess King. No, that was Couldn't you see him at Chess King? Remember?
What's Chess King?
Black shirts and skinny little ties was good.
I look good in the skinny
It
tie.
was right up your alley. All right, so we'll see what comes of this, Mayor. We'll see what comes of this. Mayor, your opponent Morales, he's pretty good on the video, I have to say. No, he's got the little Twitters and everything. He says he's got a poll that he's beating you. What do you make of that poll?
I don't believe it, and I'm certainly not distracted by it. I've been working in politics for a long time, and I know what polling looks like, and I know when a candidate puts out numbers on their own, they're trying to make a case, and so I'm moving forward with my campaign, and I don't feel in any way entitled to this, and I don't expect that I'm going to have to work really hard to ensure my reelection, but I'm also very optimistic that I'll have a chance to keep serving.
He says you're vulnerable on the rent control issue. You're against rent control, rent stabilization. He's for it, and that's I'm for the people. Rents are too high, can't afford things, and this is rent control is right. And you say no, it's not right.
Yeah,
is that an Achilles heel issue for you? Given the demographics of your city, given the economy, affordability, given all of that, is that something you're willing? Is that the hill you're going to die on?
Listen, the affordability issues are very real. Families in my city are definitely struggling with the cost of everything. But rent control doesn't lower anybody's rent. All rent control does is guarantee an increase in rent if you live in one of those apartments, which is why I'm promoting a really full program to address the affordable issues and centered with a rent relief program that is actual direct, immediate relief to tenants and homeowners facing eviction or foreclosure, which actually does help families now as opposed to what rent control will do.
This would be a certain percentage of the population. You have to qualify for this income levels. You would
Yes.
have cash for them.
Yes.
Here's cash, pay the rent.
Yes.
Ease the burden.
Yes.
What's the threshold on that?
It's a $3,000 per year maximum benefit,
Okay.
And you have to be under 80% of area median income. So it'll depend what neighborhood you live in and what the AMI is, so that it's targeted relief for
Yeah.
lower income families to help them catch up on their rent or catch up on their mortgage to keep them housed.
Now, your understanding of the rent control / stabilization bill that passed, that's across the board for every apartment in Providence? No, I know there's exceptions
There's
for
a bunch of
owner-occupied. But I'm just saying, someone who lives on the Water Place Towers over there, they can afford it. That's a nice spot. Would their rent be capped 4% too?
Probably not, because it's not owner occupied. So there's a bunch of exemptions. It's a complicated version, and one of my concerns about the city council's version, the same thing that Representative Morales is pushing, is it's a bad version of what's already a bad policy. There's a bunch of loopholes. There's a bunch of exemptions. I think it's very unclear to tenants if they're going to. A tenant will not really know clearly whether they live in a rent-controlled apartment or not, and then it's incumbent on the tenant to go complain to this new bureaucratic rent control board. And so I think we're going to have tens of thousands of tenants that raise their hand and say, I think my rent went up too much. And then they're going to be overwhelmed with complaints.
You know, Joe Paolino has a Sunday show in the arena, and I just happened to catch it this past Sunday too. And he says, I have apartments. I don't raise the rent on people. If people leave, then we'll raise the rent. He said, but I don't raise the rent every year on somebody because I can. And he said, but if you allow 4% every year, other landlords will do that. It'll be 4 every year.
Yeah.
You'll get whacked 4 every year because they don't know what's going to come when the person leaves.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that a downside of this thing too?
Yeah, so this is going to guarantee 4% increases every year. The other thing, and this is one of the bad version of a bad policy, is where this has either been tried or has been enacted in several cities around the country. Almost always what happens, the way it's written, where it has been enacted, is when a tenant leaves, the landlord can reset the rent.
Yes.
Not under this version. And so you imagine a landlord who is doing the right thing. He's got maybe an elderly tenant who's been there for 20 years, nice person, and so they keep the rent low. When that person leaves, the landlord can still only raise the rent 4%. And so it incentivizes landlords to say, I know you've been a great tenant. I know you've been here for forever, but I have to raise your rent this year and every year until you leave, because otherwise I'll never catch up.
All right, let's take a quick phone call here, and then we'll get more from the mayor at 438-9776. Paul is in Smithfield, but he's got a question for the mayor. Go ahead, Paul. You're on the radio.
Retired Providence detective told me that 40% of the crime at the Providence Place Mall goes unreported. Is that factual?
I've heard that, Mayor. I don't think he's talking out of school.
Uh,
But Paul, when you say unreported, you mean undocumented? The cop shows up, he doesn't make a report. What do you just cut through it? What are you saying?
That's part of it, and it's also kids on kids fights not affecting you and I. That doesn't get reported either.
Well, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, I'm not sure certainly what the percentage would be of unreported crime, but it does require somebody to file a complaint. And so if there's a dispute between two people and the police are not involved and nobody chooses to file a report, then that could happen for sure. I don't know what the percentage is, and certainly any victim of a crime, whether it's at the mall or anywhere else, is encouraged to come forward. We will take every complaint seriously, but it does require a complainant.
8:23. We'll be right back with the mayor. Tom, let's take Jordan, the call for the mayor, quickly. Go ahead, Jordan. I got about 2 minutes, but we'll hold you over if you need to. Go ahead, Jordan.
No problem. Hi, so my name is Jordan. I'm from Ward 1. One of the things that's really been on my mind lately is rent stabilization. I'm a renter, and I have seen my rent go from $300 all the way up to $800, and I know a lot of folks in the community have it way worse. And I know a lot of big businesses have tax stabilization. So it just feels really unfair that there's not some support. There's nothing capping landlords from doubling the rent. I'd really love to hear a little bit more about what Brett Smiley thinks and what he's doing for renters like me.
All right, Jordan, you hang on. Mayor, 1 minute. You can answer, Jordan, that if we need to say more, we'll hold her over through the news. Go ahead, 1 minute.
Yeah, Jordan's story is not unique. The rent has gone up dramatically in Providence, and it's because we have more people than we have apartments, which is why we've been so focused on trying to provide emergency relief today for people at risk of eviction or foreclosure, why we're offering no-cost eviction defense lawyers and other supports for tenants who might find themselves being taken advantage of by landlords, and why we're so focused on building new housing, and particularly permanently affordable housing. Nobody's building more in Rhode Island than Providence, and Providence is actually building more per capita than New York City and Boston. And while we're building, over 20% of what we've built is permanently subsidized affordable housing.
All right, Jordan, you stay on the line because I have a question for you, and it goes along with this debate. It's 8:30. Bill Hammond has your headlines, bottom of the hour. Some lines are open now for the mayor at 438-9777. All right, we're right back with Ask the Mayor. Mayor Jordan sounds like a young person in your city, and she says she's struggling to pay the rent. Jordan, you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Now, let me, if this was my daughter and she came to me and said, I'm like, Dad, they're jacking my rent up, they're raising the rent, I can't afford it, all kinds of problems. I said, why don't you move? Why don't you go to West Warwick? Hold on. Why don't you go to West Warwick? Why don't you go to parts of Pawtucket? Maybe you'll find something a little more affordable. What would you say, Jordan?
Well, I'm one of many Rhode Islanders that rely on RIPTA, and as much as I love to, have a cheaper rent option, I have been working in this city. I'm part of this city, in this community. So I don't think it's fair that there's just no protections for people like me.
I mean this sincerely. There's a lot of people want to live in Manhattan, but the rent is very, very high. You can't afford Manhattan. They live in the Bronx, and some of them live in New Jersey. Now, you can find a RIPTA route from Pawtucket or parts of West Warwick. Why do you think that it's Providence or nothing, Jordan? I'm asking that sincerely. That's probably what I would say to my daughter. Why don't you move to Pawtucket or move to West Warwick or move to somewhere that's on a bus line that's going to be cheaper?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. As a young person, it's just so discouraging at every term. I look at my paychecks and I look at my taxes, and I'm paying Social Security for seniors, and I'm glad the money is going to them. I'm glad because they need it. Even though I know as a young person, I'm probably not going to see a dime of that. And I would hope that my neighbors would want to do a little something to at least protect me from predatory rent jumps, too.
On the Social Security, they've been saying that since I'm a young person. And at some point, I expect to get what I paid into the system. And I paid into the system so that I'll be able to reap it now. And it's generations before that. All right, let's not get off track. Mayor, this is George. Sounds like a very nice person, lives in your city. What can you offer her? To stay, or why she ought to stay?
And first of all, Gene, I don't want Jordan to have to move to another community. I want Jordan to stay in Providence, and I want all of her friends and and peers to stay in the city as well. That's part of what makes our city special. And so that's why we're trying to do everything we can, from emergency rental assistance to additional legal representation, if that's what it comes to. We hope it doesn't. We're trying to prevent that from happening, to building more housing, including permanently affordable housing where you pay based upon your income as opposed to based upon what the market can demand. And so this is what's worked in other cities. That's how we're making progress in Providence, and that's how we're going to tackle this crisis that we're in right now.
All right, Jordan, thanks. Good luck to you. You know, Mayor, the flip side of this story is that everybody's complaining affordability. Nobody can afford. The rents are going up. All the landlords, people who bought these triple deckers for $50,000, they all cashed in. You know, Central Falls. Do you know what they're getting for triple deckers up there?
I don't.
$649, $7.25. Check the real estate.
Wow.
That's wealth creation. That's the other side of the story, isn't it, Mayor? And maybe if you can't afford Manhattan, Mayor, you have to live in the Bronx or you have to live in New Jersey, isn't that part of it, Mayor? If you can't afford Providence, then you have to move.
I certainly understand that argument, but again, my goal is that Providence be a community that's available for everyone, not just for affluent people. And so I don't want that to be the case, which is why we are building so aggressively and trying to roll out programs that are targeted, that are thoughtful, and that are respectful. You know, Jordan made the point where she feels like she's paying taxes for benefits that she thinks she's not going to see. Some of her tax dollars are being returned right into her community in the form of new affordable housing and other programs. So she is seeing some of her tax dollars going to things directly that support her also.
Let's go to the calls. Tom, Brian? Is it Brian? Go ahead, Brian. You're on the radio.
Hello. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
We're planning a MAGA rally for Providence down at City Hall. And I was wondering what we can do to get some of the streets blocked off like you did for the No Kings, where there were no buses going and people had to wait for an hour and a half for buses and stuff.
Now, Brian,
can you enlighten me on that? We're planning it for next month.
Yeah. Brian, are you offering that just as a form of jabbing sarcasm, or you really are going to plan this and you want to know if you can get the streets closed?
We are really planning it. We are really planning it, but, I am putting some sarcasm in there too.
Okay, yeah, I suspect. I'm a good judge at that.
So Brian, in Providence, we respect people's right to free speech and free assembly. Even if some of us don't agree with what's being said, you're still free to say it. And so any group that's interested in applying for a permit would go through a process we call the city services process. That's where police and arts, culture, and tourism and Department of Public Works, et cetera, we all sit around the table and say, okay, in this case, what's your, if it's a parade or in this case a protest or a rally, what's the route, what time, here's the permits that you would need, and here's the services that you can receive. And so that is available to anybody.
And there is no way of you, saying that we can't do it, right? Or is there a way of saying that? I mean, everything's going to be on the up and up.
Sure.
So there should be no reason for you not to.
I don't see how the mayor could stop you.
We wouldn't. I mean, the only way, just so that we don't find ourselves back on the radio a month from now, is it is something of a first come first served basis. So if by chance somebody has already pulled a permit for the same location on the same day at the same time, we're not going to bump one group for another. But assuming that the streets are not otherwise, there's been no permit pulled for a closure or something like that, then we would not say no. We respect people's right to peacefully assemble and peacefully protest, and so I would encourage you to call the city,
right, Brian,
and go through the process.
Brian, you let me know how you do. You want to have a MAGA rally? You're entitled to have a MAGA rally as much as the next guy is. You know, when you flew the Palestinian flag from City Hall, you told me that wasn't your idea, that the city council president and another councilman, they sort of set you up on that. They forced your hand, and you had no other way but to do that. Now, Rachel Miller, is she trying to set you up with the rent control? You know, she wants that, and she forwarded that to the newly created committee as opposed to the traditional committee. Is she maneuvering to outrun you on this? Is she going to pull a fast one? And what do you want to say to Rachel Miller?
Yeah, I think back to the call we just had, not Brian, Jordan beforehand. I take it on good faith that members of the city council are responding because they hear the same thing that I do from our residents, that for far too many of our residents, the cost of rent is too high. What the challenge is that I believe strongly that the rent control ordinance that was proposed is not actually going to lower anybody's rent. It's actually going to guarantee rent increases for those apartments, and that it's going to make the problem worse and not better. I don't think this was a political move. I think some members of the Providence City Council thought it was a good idea, and I disagreed. And so that's sort of how the process works, and that's where we are.
I understand that, and ideally, that's how the process. Everybody votes their conscience, and the votes are. And by the way, you still have one vote up on them to sustain your veto. They're trying to peel off one person so that they can override your veto. But she has forwarded this to a newly created committee chaired by an ally who supports rent control. What's going on here, Mayor? This is a maneuver.
Well, it's certainly
she's trying to outfox you.
It certainly was an easier committee vote based upon who the membership of that committee was. But that doesn't make something become a law in Providence. It still has to go to the full city council for 2 votes, which it did. And in both cases, it voted on a split vote with not enough votes to override a veto. And so the committee piece of the puzzle is sort of less important to me and to the process because it has to go to all 15 members of the city council. And that's where we sit right now. We're in the middle of a 30-day clock to override the veto, and we'll see where we stand. The reality is the council and I both have the same end goal, which is to make Providence more affordable. And there's lots of things we agree on and that we're working on together. This is just one policy issue that we disagree on.
Okay, let's go to Charles in North Kingstown. He's got a question for the mayor of Providence. Go ahead, Charles.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. So with Providence being a sanctuary city, is that the reason why there's so much building going on for new residents? And who offsets the cost of the lower rents? Is that a burden to the taxpayers of Providence?
Yeah, so the reason there's so much building going on is because people want to live in Providence, and I'm glad for that. I've been working hard to make Providence an attractive destination, and that's from people from all over, primarily from Boston and New York, frankly. That's who most of the people are that are moving into Providence, and so that's why we have more demand than we have supply right now. And in terms of our affordable housing, which I've mentioned a few times this morning, the affordable housing projects are subsidized in a couple ways. And usually there's pieces of subsidy from the federal government in the form of the low-income housing tax credit. From state government, you've probably seen on your ballot these housing bonds that have been put forward to Rhode Island voters that have passed every time. So that's where some of it. And then there's a third piece, which is the local piece, where we have a Providence Affordable Housing Trust. And I'll actually be going to the voters of Providence this November to seek their approval on a $25 million affordable housing bond in Providence, which will be up to the voters of Providence to decide. So that's how we pay for these affordable housing projects. It's usually all 3, state, federal, and local subsidy.
Charles, what do you want to say? You mentioned sanctuary city. Cut through it, Charles. What do you want to say to the mayor?
Yeah. So are we housing illegals?
Providence is a city that welcomes all, including, and we know we've got many undocumented residents in our city. They pay rent, they pay many taxes, and the city of Providence doesn't provide any sort of free housing for them, just like we don't provide free housing for other people. There are various programs that low-income residents qualify for subsidized housing situations, and they should. It's what's fair and right to do. If you're an older resident, if you're a disabled person, if you're someone who simply can't afford to pay the rent, there are opportunities for affordable housing. It's got nothing to do with immigration status.
You didn't push back on your city as a sanctuary city. Was that an oversight?
You and I have had this debate until we're blue in the face. Sanctuary cities is a political term that is used by, frankly, both sides to try to make a point, and so it's not a term that I use because it means different things to different people, and there is no one definition for it.
The federal government believes you're a sanctuary city. You know that, right?
It doesn't actually. The federal government believes all of Rhode Island is a
Yes.
sanctuary state.
Yeah. Oh, no, a fine point. But
Yeah.
yes, the federal government has designated all of us as a sanctuary state.
Yes, yes. We are on a list that there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to. You might recall over the last year, there was a list that was published. It included a bunch of cities and states. Then it was taken down because it included some states and cities who said, how the heck did we end up on this list? Some places in very conservative states around the country. So there was not a lot of integrity to that list. They took the list down, and then they published a new list where there's also doesn't seem to be a lot of rhyme or reason to it, but it is not specific to Providence.
All right, Tom, keep an eye on the clock, and you pick the caller.
Let's go to Raymond.
Raymond, go ahead. You're on the radio.
Hi, how you doing? I tuned in a little late, but I got two questions. You talk about, I'm a landlord. I've been a landlord for 40 years. Now, you talk about the rent increase in Providence. They're trying to pass a law. But let's talk about, which you probably have already, the reevaluation every 3 years. And as a standard, they raise the rent considerably. And sometimes they adjust the taxes to make up for it. But the taxes are raised considerably. And they adjust the tax bracket to take some of the burden off, but it's still being raised. The other part of it is they raise the taxes every year. And let's talk about the utilities. Narragansett Bay Commission, I believe it was last year, wants an increase in their rates, which is more expensive than the water in some cases. And the water bill keeps going up and so forth. Insurance goes up and everything else goes up, which is well beyond the 4%. Now, the other half that I want to talk about.
Ray, you got to hurry up, Ray. You got to wrap it up. Go ahead.
The illegals. He talks about the illegals paying taxes, but they need a Social Security number. Are they giving them Social Security numbers being illegals?
All right, let's hold it there. Okay, first of all, he says, I'm a landlord. My expenses go up. You can't limit me to 4% if I'm paying more than that. And by the way, there's a bill up at the legislature. If you push through rent control, they want to freeze your property taxes. That's Raptakis' bill. Go ahead and address that, and then I'll let you respond to the illegal thing.
Yeah, so I hear the point, and it would be no different for whether you own your own home or whether you're a landlord. You can't. There's a lot of these costs you can't control, and certainly from the city's perspective, most of these costs we don't control. We don't control the cost of the sewer bill. We don't control the cost of insurance, which has gone up dramatically. Yeah. A lot of these expenses are outside of our control, and so an arbitrary rent cap is very difficult, and this is one of the many reasons why I believe that this policy is going to make things worse, not better.
Yeah, Raymond, I don't know if you did tune in late, but the mayor's against rent control, so I think he's agreeing with you on everything you just said. And the last part, if you remembered what he said about are you giving illegal Social Security number? That's not an issue for the mayor, but go ahead.
Yeah, we don't do Social Security numbers, but my point is that everybody in the community, just you and me and everyone else. You go buy something at the store, you pay sales tax. You go put gas in your car, you pay gas tax. You pay tax on almost everything, and pretty much everybody pays those taxes.
Okay, Mayor, thanks. 8:51. It's 8:55.
All right, we have no more time for calls. We've got about less than a minute here, but I got a question.
Go ahead.
Uh-oh.
So, if this drinking bill passes, where they can keep the bars open till 4, and then last call is at 3, if it goes well, would you keep it?
This is really, you can tell where his top priority is, huh?
Yeah, he's been waiting for this.
Nightlife's
so
are.
Hey,
listen, this is nightlife. You want young people in this city.
He is the minister of nightlife. You would extend the drinking hours for bars and restaurants 4 a.m. for World Cup.
For World Cup.
So Tom says, well, if you do it for World Cup, you have to do it for everybody else.
So if it works for the
Providence
World
Board
Cup.
of Licenses has the ability to provide it for extended hours already. There are some like 9 p.m. West Coast games, so that's midnight East Coast, and the games are going to go till 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to consider extended hours for those games. Yes, we will learn from this experience and see how it goes, and never say never, I suppose. But we want to make sure that we move slowly so that we can maintain quiet and peace and safety in the city.
You know, the good thing, Mayor, is that most of the news shows aren't on that time, and we pay overtime for the photographer, so you might get away with this. I'll be sleeping. We'll overlook it. It's 8:56. Mayor, thanks. Great outing. Nice to have you. Good
See you
luck.
next month.
All right, thank you. 8:56.